Hello everyone and welcome to this sort of special video. As a fanatic private server player and also a guy that likes to use Reddit frequently, there are just a few things I've come across and that are on my mind and that I would like to talk about. This will be a very opinionated video and you might not agree with a lot of the things I'm going to say, but I still hope that this leads to a lot of views and traffic for my channel to pull me out of this bottomless pit of irrelevance I'm currently trapped in.
In the arms of the angel, fly away.
In all seriousness, I really hope that we can use this video and this opportunity to talk about a few things down in the comments, that you can give me an insight behind your thought process and that we maybe find an answer to all of this current development going on in the private server community right now. And that's an answer besides, well, it's the internet. Okay, before we start, I know a lot of you are here for their daily trolling routine. Don't worry, I've got you covered. You should be seeing a lot of neat insults flying around this area right now, so make sure to pick one, take even two, and I think then we can start. I like that one. Okay, are we good? Then I would say we are going to jump right in and let's talk about a few things. First of all, why did games and the communities surrounding them become so toxic, so filled with anger and hatred? Games used to be something fun, something that helped us escape problems or dull phases of our lives. Enabled us to explore other worlds, experience adventures, and since MMOs were introduced, even made it possible to communicate with other players. People around the globe that also like to play games. They did not judge you for that. When we talk about the original Warcraft experience, this social aspect always stood out for me as a main component. Now, don't get me wrong here, I'm not blue-eyed. Trolling is a thing since the internet itself. Warcraft was no exception. The phrase Baron's chat alone probably triggers Vietnam flashbacks for a lot of players. The possibilities of hiding behind avatars under a cloak of anonymity brings out the worst in people and is the other side of the coin when we talk about escaping the real life. But that's a whole other discussion for itself and nothing I want to dive into too deep here. What I'm talking about here mainly are the arguments outside of the game, where this whole idea of being anonymous still exists, but for the most part we are not talking about some goofy stuff here. No thunder where we spam in the chat or some silly shitpost. No, what I mean is that a lot of people generally think their way of toxic behavior is okay. Maybe not even realizing that they start to merge with their alter egos, trying to justify hate and marginalization towards other users and opinions that differentiate from their own. And I feel like stressing this out at this point that it's not everyone in the private server community. There are a bunch of supportive and positive people in the forums and on Reddit. I don't want to fall into the same kind of trap by generalizing and stigmatizing whole groups. There is a silent majority of people who do not want to take part in any of the flame. The most toxic members of a community are also the most vocal ones, and that may shift the perception of how big this issue is. That being considered, I get the feeling things are even turning for the worse. Again, the problems I talked about so far always existed, but that does not justify them or make the situation any better. And I think that maybe speaking out against this kind of behavior and getting vocal yourself is something very important. This will sound cheesy as fuck and is rather rich coming from a German, but Edmund Burke once said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Now I can already see the comments that this video won't do shit and every month there's a post like this, or someone tries to make an appeal to the community. That I am taking the high road here and just try to present as myself as some private server guru, that I exaggerate and overanalyze this issue. And the quote I just used might be a bit over the top, I give you that. But I think it is much more important to at least try and change a few things, to try to bring people into zooming out, see the bigger picture and reflect on certain topics. And I think it's worth a try even if it just would slow down the decline into more toxicity. It is a long shot, but I really would like to see official servers of Classic WoW and the old expansions one day. And I know some of the users don't even want that because they fear certain tweaks and changes by Blizzard to the vanilla experience. But just as a short side note, if that is the case, then there will always be unofficial servers who completely go for the original pure gameplay, because that still would be in demand and always will be. I mean, they might exist no matter what, just because there's no sub fee, so I don't think that this is something to be afraid of. I would like that other players see this community as a group of people that just enjoys an old game and the experiences that come with it, that has a passion and wants to share it with gamers who not dare to dive into it yet. May it be because of concerns from legal issues, or they never played it to begin with, or if they are just annoyed by certain elitism or have a wrong picture because of the hate that emits from the private server scene into other community. And I know that a lot of you are disappointed by Blizzard, feel ignored, fucked over, or just not taken serious, and it is indeed frustrating, even for me. I think the way they handled things and communicated is not worthy of a company that used to care so much about their player base. They just tried to suffocate the issue, and when the backlash was too strong, they did something that, judging from everything so far, can be described as a PR move at best. But that does not justify the way a huge percentage of the players conveyed and communicated their anger towards Blizzard. If we ever want to be taken serious as a community, stuff like this just can't stand. Some lash-out trolling will always persist, but if your whole movement is looked upon as something so toxic and self-entitled, then there's just no endgame. But before even thinking about convincing other people of the idea of private servers, we have to fix and unite as a private server community itself. And I don't mean that everyone should have the same opinion and anything that deviates from that should be suppressed. I want the opposite. It should be okay to have different opinions, to enjoy different versions of the game. Good and bad are such subjective terms. A game can be hardly described as bad objectively, but it can be as different as the human taste itself. Don't just flat out flame people and call them chillers, idiots, etc. This is the point where a lot of users confuse freedom of speech and having an opinion with just flat out hatred and ignorance, dividing the community even further. Which brings me to another point, a certain responsibility bigger private server YouTubers have towards this whole issue. And like it or not, I think the most prominent figure we have right now is Alexandral. Not only that, he's also a very controversial figure. And yeah, with that amount of reach, should he try to be a bit less biased and more reflected? Maybe. Should he try to refrain from calling people retarded or worse and bashing other servers for not enjoying them? Certainly. Does he keep asking himself too many rhetorical questions while trying to make a point?
Not nearly as much as vanilla.
Look, Alex is no saint. He does some pretty douchey shit. And it is okay to call out behavior like that in my opinion. But the way it is done currently is even less acceptable than the misconduct itself. People love to hate this guy, which also plays a role in the success the channel currently has. I would guess there's a good percentage of users that does not even know why they hate him. It's just the current hype train to hop on. And just as a short side note, the majority of the Reddit WoW user community enjoys some hype trains. But let's not get sidetracked here. The thing is, the increasing popularity boosts the fight between people who support him and players who are sick of him to a whole nother level. And the hate keeps spiraling out of control. I personally don't think he is a bad guy. You can see from a few of his previous action he never really wanted to become this big, even quitting one time not being able to deal with the growing hate against him and the pressure. He's just a guy that liked to do private server videos. After all the shit he've got, after all those daily posts, do we really think stuff like that changes a person for the better? Someone that did not feel that well being the center of attention to begin with. Usually content creators grow and improve with their audience, learning from comprehensible constructive criticism. With the stuff he got, of course there will be a backlash and behavior that is very reminiscent of a person that just does not know how to deal with all that aggression. And the circle spins again. He might be responsible for some of the shit he is receiving, but this witch hunt is just downright ridiculous and will hurt the community and the private servers as a whole in the long run.
Well, of course you would defend him. You are also one of those elitist content creators who think better of themselves, that are just in it for the cash.
This is a very interesting point I see popping up time and time again, and I will cover a bit down the road. Together with those voices, you also have people that heavily criticize the current state of WoW private server content creation. To some degree I understand that. There are a lot of videos floating around that can be summed up with "Remember this? Remember how vanilla was back then? Oh, I remember. Retail is shit. Legion sucks, am I right, guys? And there might be some people that indeed see an opportunity in the current hype. And I can also understand the notion for some players, the anger that builds inside. Knowing something for a longer time, getting good at it for years, and then other people come in, fresh content gets put out, seemingly from guys who didn't even play back then, and you get the feeling that they are just riding on a wave. How dare them to have success with that? After all, you did it much earlier, right? You were here first. You know so much more. You could have done this better, and now someone else has done it, and so poorly, and he even gets away with it. And you get that weird mood of being pissed at something that actually does not hurt anyone, but just feels like it's a big injustice. It's like having read the Game of Thrones books before the franchise got popular, and then you hear your friends talk about the show and their stupid ass theories, and you just want to scream at them. The thing is, I know that feel to some degree. But how do you cope with that emotion? Do you let your salty hipster burst out in a comment or opinion piece that, the way I see it, does not further the discussion at all? Or do you take your time to get behind it, to understand it, and look at the bigger picture? That you begin to grasp where this anger is coming from before posting the next hate comment. And I don't mean comments like, hey, I think it would be better if you edit your videos down a bit, or I think the thing you said there at this point is wrong, here's how I see it. No, that stuff is more than welcome. I mean actual aggression without leaving space for tips or improvement. And it's also the point why I discussed the issues with Alex in a bit more detail earlier. In my opinion, there are just a lot of mistakes we can learn from. Addressing issues in a constructive manner is one of them. Calling people cash grabs and saying their content sucks without giving any reason for it is not. I am a pretty dull and quiet person myself that just tries to stream the game he enjoyed in the hopes some other people might enjoy that as well. You know, a bit more setback and positive approach in times where I feel like shouting, baiting and starting drama is the only way to gain attention. And that is an approach that some people just see as straight out boring and lazy, and they don't enjoy it. On one hand, that is up to personal preferences. On the other hand, I still have much to learn indeed. And yeah, sure, I would like to have success with what I'm doing one day. I also invest a good portion of my time into it. I would go so far to say that this is my definition of the pursuit of happiness. To use the time I have to do something I enjoy and maybe even entertain people in the process. And of course, there are also folks who like their 9-to-5 job and just do YouTube as a hobby. And that is completely fine as well. It's just that there's not one reason I can think of that speaks against making a living out of the stuff you enjoy, besides rather wanting it for yourself and begrudging the success of others. And I feel like this point is centering about me a bit too much right now, but I'm certain that a lot of content creators feel in a similar way. I was talking about how we grow with our audience and the feedback we receive. Who knows in which direction some channels will develop with some assisting input. It just takes time. Every channel has to start somewhere and find its way. Simply saying you suck and inciting hate won't bring any positive changes. No channel can grow and cater to the demands you have if it gets suffocated in a pile of shit. Speak your mind, but also say what you don't like and what can be done better. Besides that, the want for high quality content and the rants against making money with videos flat out contradict each other. Support is the thing that keeps content improving, and this support does not even have to be monetary from your side. But this is not a place right now to talk about ratings, comments and YouTube algorithms. And the increasing mindset of just consuming is far too big of an issue to even begin with. Just keep in mind that not everyone that asks for ratings and feedback is doing it just to make themselves feel better and is jerking off to it. Now this video will probably be not received that well by a lot of you. Alone to the fact that it leaves the impression of being talked down to. No one likes being lectured or reminded of mistakes. A lot of people also feel rather strong about themselves and the community, since Nost is around the corner and the hype train is running at full speed. Even for me, but it does not mean it reflects the way that the community is heading towards right now. Also the fact that I enjoy WoW Awakening, a topic that would be worth a whole other discussion video for itself and probably will be in the near future. But this ramble is going on for far too long. And there are also some people that flat out disagree with this "let's be nice to each other" mumbo jumbo, and that are concerned with their freedom of speech and if it's violated. And it's okay if you don't agree with this video. if you think I went too far in a few places, and I did. And the intention of this video is not to silence anyone, but rather to provoke some thoughts about how you speak out, and well, who's to say that my moral compass is of higher value than yours? That would be downright ignorant. Maybe I am too soft and should not take some of the issues too serious. But I hope something we all can agree on is that everyone should be able to do what he or she wants and enjoys doing, as long as it does not hurt the freedom of anyone else in the process. So let's try to end on a positive note here and try to regain the focus on the positive side of things. And I don't mean that you don't have a right to be pissed about certain issues or that you should not get engaged into things just because there's much worse shit in the world going on. I mean, look at this fucking video. I'm investing myself quite a bit into this. I just want to close with the point I opened this conversation with. Games are something magical, and isn't it fucking great that we have them? We are a generation that has the privilege to enjoy so much stuff, be it music, movies or games. We pretty much have an unlimited access to all sorts of entertainment from the most different of ages, something that couldn't be even dreamed about 30 years ago. Instead of being spiteful that vanilla is over, let's be thankful that we had a chance to experience it at its prime, and there are still volunteers at work that enable us to relive those wonderful moments. So thanks to everyone that is engaged in the production of private servers, to everyone that helps spreading the word. Thanks Mr. Game Master Reviews for giving us a good grasp about a variety of servers. Thanks Dodgy for being yourself and calling out bullshit. Thanks Hamster Wheel for giving all the Grand Marshals and High Warlords a place to be. Thanks Maki Mark for all the detailed insights and guides. Thanks Asunik for remembering us. Thanks Orkbit for the most informative ASMR videos I've heard so far. Thanks Alex for inspiring Hunter players all over the world. Thanks Gibuyeri for reminding me how great it was to play World of Warcraft for the first time. Thanks Super Soka for making rambling entertaining. And thanks NFL for one of the most enjoyable World of Warcraft playthroughs I have seen so far. I hope you make it back one day. Thanks to all the players and users who signed the petition, that share the love and passion for private servers, that enjoy the game without condemning others, that speak out against flame and discrimination in the threads. For a better future in the World of Warcraft community, for Azeroth.